Hey, what's going on, guys? In this video, I want to continue what I have seen from yesterday. Like yesterday, I think we gone through until page 8, and I'm gonna continue more than that today. Like I'm gonna just keep on going after that. Now let's see. Page 8. Okay, it actually ended with here. I'm having hard time to find the page number. There's no page number provided, so I have to see from my channel what I have and okay. It's my wife just filed for divorce, and I never had a clue. Okay, this quad. Now let's see where's that thing is. Okay, here we go. This is the one. My wife just filed a divorce, and I never had a clue. So this is the one we finished by last video, and this is like 20th slide. So I make sure when I finish it by the 28, because I'm just trying to go just 8 pages per video, something like that. So it will be easier to absorb. Now let's go ahead and continue. I find it disheartening how often we run into somebody or read about someone who always seems to be blindsided by life event. The complaints of these individuals are nearly always the same. My wife just filed for divorce, and I never had a clue she was unhappy with our marriage. The guidance of counselors tell me my son has been using cocaine for 3 years. I had no idea he had a drug problem. I was arguing with this guy, and out of nowhere he sucker punched me. I never saw it coming. I thought the boss was pretty happy with my job performance. I had no idea I was going to be fired. Okay, this thing actually happened to me as well. I was arguing with this guy, and out of nowhere he sucker punched me. I never saw it coming. Okay, this one actually I was selling a product. What happened to me in my stories? I was like buying and selling product, and when I was buying an Apple Watch from a guy, and the guy suddenly hit me hard, and I never know he's gonna do that. But maybe if I learned this and I understood the body languages, I would have figured out. So this one is like after seeing this one, maybe I am being the one of these guys. So I better learn this, get some ideas about people's behavior and their body language. Now let's go ahead and continue. These are kind of statements made by men and women who have never learned how to observe the world around them effectively. Such inadequate are not surprising, really. After all, as we grow from children to adults, we never instructed on how to observe the nonverbal clues of others. There are no classes in elementary school, high school, or college that teach people situational awareness. If you are lucky, you teach yourself to be more observant. If you don't, you miss out on an incredible amount of useful information that could help you avoid problems and make your life more fulfilling. be it when dating, at work, or with family. Fortunately, observation is a skill that can be learned. We don't have to go through life being blindsided. Furthermore, because it's a skill, we can get better at it with the right kind of training and practice. If you are observantly challenged, do not despair. You can overcome your weakness in this area if you are willing to devote time and effort to observing your world more conscientiously. What you need to do is to make more to make do is make observation concerted observation a way of life. Becoming aware of the world around you is not a passive act. It is a conscious deliberate behavior, something that takes effort, energy, and concentration to achieve, and constant practice to maintain. Observation is like muscle. It grows stronger with the use and atrophies without use. Exercise your observation muscle and you will become a more powerful decoder of the world around you. By the way, when I speak I of concerted observation, I am asking you to utilize all your senses, not just sense of sight. Whenever I walk into my apartment, I take a deep breath. If things don't smell normal, I become concerned. One time I detected the slight odor of lingering cigarette smoke when I returned home from a trip. My nose alerted me to possible danger well before my eyes could scan my apartment. It turned out that the apartment maintenance man had been by to fix a leaky pipe, and the smoke on his clothes and skin were still lingering in the air several hours later. Fortunately, he was a welcome intruder, but there could just as easily have been a burglar lurking into the next room. The point is, by using all my senses, I was better able to assess my environment and contribute to my own safety and well being. Commandment 2. Okay, we were reading all about this commandment 1. Let's go to commandment 1. Be a competent observer of your environment. That's commandment 1. Now, the commandment 2 says observing it in context is key to understand nonverbal behavior. Understanding nonverbal behavior. Observing in context is key to understanding nonverbal behavior. When trying to understand nonverbal behavior in real life situations, the more you understand the context in which it takes place, the better you will be at understanding what it means. For example, after a traffic accident, I expect people to be in shock and to walk around looking dazed. I expect their hands to shake and even for them to make poor decisions like walking into oncoming traffic. This is why officers ask you to stay in your car. Why, after an accident, people are suffering the effects of complete hijacking of the thinking brain by a region of the brain known as the limbic system. The result of hijacking include behaviors such as trembling, disorientation, nervousness, and discomfort. In context, these actions are to be expected and confirm the stress from the accident. During a job interview, I expect applicants to be nervous initially and for that nervousness to dissipate if it shows up again when I ask specific questions. Then I had to wonder why this nervous behavior have suddenly presented again. Commandment number 3. Learn to recognize and decode nonverbal behavior that are universal. Some body behaviors are considered universal because they are exhibited similarly by most people. For instance, when people press their lips together in a manner that seems to make them disappear, it is clear and common sign that you are troubled and something is wrong. This nonverbal behavior, known as lip compression, is one of the universal tells that I will be describing in the chapters to follow. The more of the universal nonverbal you can recognize and accurately interpret, the more effective you will be in assessing the thoughts, feelings, and intentions of those around you. Universal box for a pursuing of lips lead to serving on ship. Universal tells The lips were very helpful to me during a consulting assignment with a British shipping company. My British client had asked me to sit through their contract neighbors with a huge multinational corporation that would be outfitting their vessels. I agreed and suggested that the proposed contract be presented point by point, with agreement being reached on each item before moving forward. That way, I could more closely watch the corporate negotiator for any nonverbal that might reveal information helpful to my client. I'll pass your note if I spot something that needs your attention, I told my client, and then settled back to watch the parties' reviews, the contract clauses, clause by clause. I didn't have long to wait before I saw an important when a clause detailing the outfitting of a specific part of the vessel was read a construction phase involving millions of dollars. The chief negotiator from the multinational corporation pursed his lips, a clear indication that something in this part of the contract was not to his liking. I passed a note to my client warning him that this particular clause in the contract was contentious or problematic and should be revisited and discussed thoroughly while we were still together. By confronting the issue then and there and focusing on the details of the clause in the question, the negotiators were able to hammer out an agreement face to face, which ended up serving my client $13.5 million. The neighbor's nonverbal sign of displeasure was the key evidence needed to spot a specific problem and deal with it immediately and effectively. Commandment 4. Learn to recognize and decode idiosyncratic nonverbal behaviors. Universal nonverbal behaviors constitute one group of body cues. Those are relatively the same for everyone. There's a second type of body cue called idiosyncratic nonverbal behavior, which is a signal that is relatively unique to a particular individual. In attempting to identify idiosyncratic signals, you will want to be on the lookout for behavior patterns in people you interact with on a regular basis. Friends, family, co-workers, persons who provide goods or services to you on a consistent basis. The better you know an individual, or the longer you interact with him or her, the easier it will be to discover this information because you will have a larger database upon which to make your judgment. For example, if you note your teenager scratches his head and bites his lip when he is about to take a test, this might be a reliable idiosyncratic tell that speaks of his nervousness or lack of preparation. No doubt this has become part of his repertoire for dealing with stress, and you will see it again and again because the best predictor of future behaviors is past behavior. Commandment 5. When you interact with others, try to establish their baseline behaviors. In order to get a handle on the baseline behaviors of the people with whom you regularly interact, you need to note how they look normally, how they typically sit, where they place their hands, usual position of their feet, the posture and common facial expressions, the tilt of their heads, and even where they generally place or hold their positions, such as purse. You need to be able to differentiate between their normal face and their stress face. Not getting a baseline puts you in the same position as parents who never took down their child's throat until the youngster gets sick. They call the doctor and try to describe what they see inside, but they have no means of making a comparison because they never looked at the child's throat when he or she was healthy. By examining what's normal, we begin to recognize and identify what's abnormal. Even in a single encounter with someone, you should attempt to note his or her starting position at the beginning of the beginning of your interaction. Establishing a person's baseline behavior is critical because it allows you to determine when he or she deviates from it, which can be very important and informative. Not Not features of face when not stressed. Eyes are relaxed and lips should be full. A stressed face is tense and slightly contorted. Eyebrows are knitted and the forehead is furrowed. Commandment 6. Always try to watch people for multiple traits behavior that occurs clusters or in in succession. You actually in reading people will be enhanced when you observe multiple traits or clusters of behavior body signals on which they wish to rely. These signals work together like parts of a job puzzle. The more pieces of the puzzle you possess, the better your chances of putting them all together and seeing picture they portray. To illustrate, if I see a business competitor display a pattern of stress behavior, followed closely by pacifying behaviors, I can be more confident that she is bargaining from a position of weakness. It is important to look for changes in a person's behavior that can signal changes in thoughts, emotion, interest, or intent. Sudden changes in behavior can help reveal how a person is processing information or adapting to emotional events. A child who is exhibiting giddiness and delight at the prospect of entering a theme park will change his behavior immediately. Upon learning the park is closed, adults are no different. When we get bad news over the phone or see something that can hurt us, our bodies reflect that change immediately. It's a relative matter. Imagine for a moment that you are the parent of an 8-year-old boy who is waiting in line to greet relatives at a large family reunion. As is a yearly ritual, you have stood with your son on numerous occasions while he waited his turn to say hello to everyone. He has never hesitated to run up and give family members a big hug. However, on this occasion, when it comes time to embrace his Uncle Harry, he stands stiff and frozen in place. What's the matter? You whisper to him, pushing him forward to his waiting uncle. Your son doesn't say anything, but he's very reluctant to respond to your physical signal. What should you do? The important thing to note here is that your son's behavior is a deviation from his baseline behavior in the past. He has never hesitated to greet his uncle with a hug. Why the change in behavior? His freeze response suggests he feels threatened or something negative. Perhaps there's no justified reason for his fear, but to the observant and sensibly cautious parent. A warning signal should go off. Your son's deviation from his previous behavior suggests that something negative might have occurred between him and his uncle since their last meeting. Perhaps it was a simple disagreement, the awkwardness of youth, or a reaction to the uncle's preferential treatment of others. Then again, this behavior might indicate something much more sinister. The point is that a change in a person's baseline behavior suggests that something might be amiss, and a particular case probably warrants further attention. Changes in a person's behavior can also reveal his or her intention in certain circumstances. Careful observation of such changes can allow you to predict things before they happen, clearly giving you an advantage, particularly if the impending action could cause you cause harm to you than or the others. Commandment 8. Learning to detect false or misleading nonverbal signals is also critical. The ability to differentiate between authentic and misleading cues take practice and experience. It requires not only concerted observation but also some careful judgment. In the chapters to come, I will teach you the subtle difference in a person's actions that reveals whether a behavior is honest or dishonest, increasing your chances of getting an accurate read on the persons with whom you are dealing. Commandment number 9. Knowing how to distinguish between comfort and discomfort will help you to focus on the most important behavior for decoding nonverbal communications. Having studied nonverbal behavior I most of my adult life, I have come to realize that there are two principal things we should look for and focus on: comfort and discomfort. This is fundamental to how I teach nonverbal communications. Learning to read comfort and discomfort cues in others accurately will help you to decipher what their bodies and minds are truly saying. If in doubt as to what a behavior means, ask yourself if this looks like a comfort behavior, example, contentment, happiness, relaxation, or if it looks like a discomfort behavior, displeasure, unhappiness, stress, anxiety, tension. Most of the time, you will be able to place observed behavior in one of those two domains: comfort with discomfort. Nose for trouble. Among the most important nonverbal clues to a person's thoughts are changes in body language that constitute intentional cues. These are behaviors that reveal what a person is about to do and provide the competent observer with extra time to prepare for the anticipated action before it takes place. One personal example of how critical it is to watch for changes in people behavior, particularly when the changes involve intentional cues, involves an attempted robbery of a store where I worked. In this particular situation, I noticed a man standing near the cash register at the checkout counter, a behavior that caught my attention because he seemed to have no reason to be there. He wasn't waiting in line, and he hadn't purchased any items. Moreover, the entire time he just stood there. His eyes were fixed on the cash register. If he had just remained quietly where he was, I eventually would have lost interest in him and focused my attention elsewhere. However, while I was still observing him, his behavior changed. Specifically, his nostrils started flaring, nasal wing dilation, which was a giveaway that he was oxygenating in advance of taking some action. I guessed what that action was going to be about a second before it occurred, and a second was all I had to sound a warning. I yelled to the cashier, "Watch out," as three things happened at once. The clerk finished ringing up sale, causing the cash drawer to open. Man, the man near the register lunged forward, plunging his hand into the drawer to grab some cash, and alerted my shouted warning. The cashier grabbed the man's hand and twisted it, causing the would-be robber to drop the money and run out of the store. Had I not spotted his intention cue, I am sure the thief would have succeeded in his efforts. Incidentally, the cashier was my father, who was running a small hardware store in Miami back in 1974. I was his summer hire. Commandment number 10. When observing others, be subtle about it. Using nonverbal behavior requires you to observe people carefully and decode their nonverbal behavior accurately. However, one thing you don't want to do when observing others is to make your intentions obvious. Many individuals tend to stare at people when they first try to spot nonverbal cues. Such intrusive observation is not advisable. Your ideal goal is to observe others without their knowing it. In other words, unobtrusively. Work at perfecting your observing skills, and you will reach a point where your efforts will be both successful and subtle. It's all a matter of practice and persistence. You have now been introduced to a part of our partnership, the 10 commandments you need to follow to decode nonverbal communication successfully. The question now becomes, what nonverbal behavior should I be looking for, and what important information do they reveal? This is where I come in, identifying the important nonverbal behavior and their meanings. Consider the human body is capable of giving off literally thousands of nonverbal signals and messages. Which one are most important and how do you decode them? The problem is that could it could take lifetime of painstaking observation, evaluation, and validation to identify, interpret important nonverbal communications accurately. Fortunately, with the help of some very gifted researchers and my practical experience as an FBI expert on nonverbal behavior, we can take a more direct approach to get you on your way. I have already identified those nonverbal behaviors that are most important so you can put this unique knowledge to immediate use. We have also developed a paradigm or model that makes reading nonverbal easier. Even if you forget how exactly what a type what a specific body signal means, you will still be able to decipher it. As you read through these pages, you will learn certain information about nonverbal behavior that has never been revealed in any other text on body language, including example of nonverbal behavior clues used to solve actual FBI cases. Some of the material will surprise you. For example, if you had to choose the most honest part of the person's body, the part that would most likely reveal an individual's true feeling or intention, which part you select? Take a guess. Once I reveal the answer, you will know a place to look when attempting to decide what a business associate, family member, date, or total stranger is thinking, feeling, or intending. I will also explain the physiological basis for nonverbal behavior, the role the brain plays in nonverbal behavior. I will also reveal the truth about detecting deception as no counterintelligence agent has done before. I firmly believe that understanding the biological basis for body language will help you appreciate how nonverbal behavior works and why it is such a potent predictor of human thoughts, feelings, and intentions. Therefore, I start the next chapter with a look at the magnificent organ that the human brain and show how it governs every facet of our body language. Before I do so, however, I will share an observation concerning the validity of using body language to understand and assess human behavior. Okay, now I reached page 28. I'm going to stop right here and continue on my next video. I hope you guys find this video helpful. Thanks for watching. See you guys on my next video.